going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904. If you want to get all technical, I mean, it's 5:30 on the dot on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. Of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is called Grinderslive. Joining me today, it's Grant Neefer. Grant, we're excited, right?
Yeah. Why wouldn't I be excited?
I don't know. You're happy to talk to me. It's a fun slate.
Happy to talk to you. No, but fun.
Relatively
slate.
Happy.
Yes.
Did we get a refresh? I meant to check this before we went on air as far as Ross weather report. Let's maybe Dev won't be all over that. He'll kind of drop it in chat for the people out there. What's up, chat? Feel free to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We're here for the next 50 minutes.
Leave a mean comment about Dean.
You could do that too. That's fine. Or equal opportunity. You can leave a mean comment about Grant as well. I don't know what they would say. You were mean enough pre-show. You were vicious.
How was I vicious? You're the one coming at me. Oh, you don't know Saved by the Bell. Jim Harbaugh was never on Saved by the Bell. For some reason, this is my view of your voice.
Do I actually sound like that? I have
no idea what I sounded like there.
It was. It sounded pretty masculine. So I'll kind of sort of somewhat take it. But well, I guess we can throw out the promo now for the people. Why not? You guys know Crunch Time is free going forward on Fridays. Free Crunch Time Friday. It's presented by Big Brain. Big Brain, of course, is the world where hybrid HQ trivia and DFS merges. And on Friday night, we play a contest with you guys after lock 7:30 or so. The Crunch Time crew, and again, it's gonna be free, so you guys can watch it on YouTube. Premium people can watch it as well. And they have particular topics, very, very specific topics. And one of the topics that's going down right now in the lobby is Saved by the Bell. Radiohead as well, Dungeons and Dragons, which I have a sneaky suspicion, Grant. I'm gonna say you and Devin are both really good at Dungeons and Dragons. I could be wrong.
Never played it.
Really?
Yeah, oh, I'm not a nerd.
Well, you like to kill the zombies all the time. I figure it's like a
okay. First of all, Dungeons and Dragons is still very much a niche market. Call of Duty is one of the most widely played games on Earth by more than 70 million people in the U.S. alone.
How do you know it's 70 million? Like that's something off the dome. You just happen to have like the information in your back pocket.
I might have.
All right, fair enough. Beyonce as well, and the Big Lebowski. So they're very, very specific topics. They're currently in the lobby lurking right now in Big Brain. And you guys can get a $50 deposit, matching deposit bonus up to $50. No code necessary, just deposit $50, and they will go ahead and double that for you. I think, to my knowledge, I'm in Florida, and currently it's not available in Florida, unfortunately, because otherwise I will be crushing you in Big Lebowski trivia and Saved by the Bell trivia. I sent him a little message to Andy Means. I know he's a big fan of Saved by the Bell, and I asked him the one question, Grant. The question that this is kind of like my barometer stick. It's like, well, let's see if this person really knows their Saved by the Bell. And you were bragging pre-show. And I'm going to catch you off. You ready for it? I'm going to get you. You're going to get this question wrong, and you're going to get served. You ready?
Yeah.
AC Slater. You're aware of AC Slater?
Yeah.
What does the AC stand for?
Let me think. Albert Clifford.
Oh, you got me. Oh, I just got. Unbelievable. Yeah. All right. Well, Grant, you know what? You are ready to play yourself some Big Brain, because that is.
I have Google in front of me.
Oh, are you cheating? I'm not watching the video.
Of course I'm cheating.
Hands above. Come on, Grant. We live in a society. What are you doing?
You said I wasn't going to get it. I got it.
Well, why would you cheat?
Because I wasn't going to get it otherwise.
All right. Well, you were making my point. Yeah, I assume I
never claimed to be a huge Saved by the Bell fan. I said that I watched every episode.
Yeah, but you were dropping references to Jim Harbaugh. Apparently was like a relative of Dustin Diamond's.
Yeah, but I don't know the names for anything. Okay. Any TV show. I may have watched the TV show all the way through. I can't name half the Game of Thrones characters. And I've watched every episode.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like there's the big guy. Yeah, I get those of you don't really need to know the names for Game of Thrones. Hey, you want to talk some baseball as far as the slate tonight?
Yeah, I guess.
Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist, of course, is going to be on Crunch Time later on tonight. If you guys are premium members, you'll check him out. He'll give you the most up-to-date update as far as what's going down weather-wise. And there should be one breaking at some point during the show. This was earlier this morning where he has – wait, no, actually it changed because now Kansas City is orange-yellow. I just went ahead and pulled it up, and I guess he must have just updated this. Yeah, so that's a big one because earlier today it was like orange and red, and those are scarier colors. Now it looks a little bit more appealing. I'll go ahead and drop this link in chat for the people out there. And you guys can give it a read at your own leisure as far as what's going on there weather-wise. But that is important because Corbin Burns is throwing baseballs tonight. It's sort of tricky because Corbin Burnes is throwing baseball. I was trying to figure out who my favorite pitcher was tonight, and I thought all four were kind of sort of basically all the four big studs we'll talk about. Obviously, there's a salary cap issue. There's some cheapies that are worth exploring that we'll get into as well. But Kershaw, Burnes, Flaherty, which I think is my favorite, although he's also like the safest, and I don't know how high his upside is, but he definitely can go 9 as well because Pittsburgh's horrific. And then Kershaw, who threw over 100 pitches last time out against an Arizona team that's kind of depleted. They've been good against lefties this year, but in a small sample, but I don't totally buy it. Can you separate those four? Because it's pretty congested. And in my head, I was just throwing Burnes out, but now he might be back in the conversation.
I mean, I think Burnes is still my least favorite. I don't mind him. Absolutely not going to argue with using Burnes at all. He's a solid pitcher. The pitch count is a concern, but he's got such elite control that it's not really a problem. But realistically, like I think Kershaw and Flaherty are my two favorite pitchers on the slate. Flaherty gets a matchup versus Pittsburgh. We'll see when that lineup is. That lineup out yet? I don't think it is.
Spoiler alert: it's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's out, and it is in fact bad.
Confirmed.
It's very bad. It is not daunting at all. He's got a 2.9 implied team total going up against him. So I'm kind of on the Kershaw and Flaherty train, but I mean, realistically, you don't really need to pay up on this slate. It's not a requirement. I mean, obviously Scherzer's in a spot where a big problem with him is home runs. And while the wind might be going a little across field, it will be blowing out to left. And that can cause some problems for him. So I'm kind of on the train of like Flaherty is by far my favorite target, but I don't feel the need to use Kershaw or Flaherty because you can go down and there's some cheaper guys that I think are very viable plays.
So I was one of the 4 people that wrote today in the expert survey, and I kind of sort of said, and I bet you make lineups differently than me. I bet a lot of people approach it differently, but general rules, especially this year where there's been so many cheapies, it's easy to make things work. Just give me the pitchers I want, and I'll figure it out, and I'll still get the majority of bats that I want. Just because salary cap's not that hard, you can always find the 2K cheapies on DK. I'm kind of doing.
You can. I don't want to.
Well, this is what I'm going with. Is tonight my approach is a little bit different. I feel like I can sort of plug in my pitcher last because I like guys at different levels and just sort of get the bats I want to get. And we'll talk about the bats soon enough. Obviously, you mentioned the weather game there in Chicago. Devin, I know he's doing a screen share. You can show it off to the people. I'm pulling up Kevin Ross, the Weather Edge right now. You guys get this as part of the premium package. You can get it a la carte as well too, but I think it just makes much more sense to get it for as far as the premium package. You can get just baseball if you guys want, or all the sports. Either way, all those sports with the exception of NASCAR. I don't want to mislead the people, but you can get $10 off the first month for either way. Again, just baseball, just basketball, just football, or you can get all of them with the exception of NASCAR. Either way, $10 off. Go ahead and drop a link in chat. I'm showing off the Weather Edge. I'm not sure if you're taking a peek at this just yet. So it has nothing to do with who's playing and what specifics are throwing or hitting and yada, yada. It's just 102, which is a pretty good size sample size in my estimation. 102 previous games, right, with this particular weather set. Obviously, the weather can change from now until first pitch, but home runs have seen a spike in 102 games of 51.7%. That is a huge number. Runs have spiked to 21.6%, and ERA has spiked at 21.6%. So the other thing is you got to hit the ball, and Scherzer can strike people out. And who cares what the wind's like if he's just striking people out? And FanDuel, he's kind of sort of priced out. I guess priced out is not the right way to say it, but it doesn't make the most sense dollar for dollar. But I guess if you factor in ownership, nobody's going to play him for that reason, and potentially what the weather is like there in Chicago as well. So I think it's an interesting tournament play. But are we throwing, you mentioned the weather already once. Are you throwing Scherzer out? He's 10K on DK, a little bit cheaper than Kershaw, a little bit cheaper than Burnes, a little bit more expensive on Flaherty. But those 4, I think, are pretty clearly like that's the tier you're working in, and then kind of work our way down from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm throwing out Scherzer. Like, I'm probably not playing Burnes either. Mostly weather. That could end up changing with what Roth has to say, but I'm throwing Scherzer out. Like, it just does not play to his type of throwing. I mean, he may strike out a ton of guys, and it's a pretty solid strikeout lineup, but it just does not play into the way that he pitches, what he does, and the home runs that he's going to give up. Because 50% increase to home runs. He's a pretty big fly ball pitcher, gives up a decent amount of hard contact, just the pitch types that he throws. So it doesn't really grade out well for him. And I mean, realistically, I would be entirely fine using 3 pitchers on the slate, and I may end up only using 3 pitchers on this entire slate.
Yeah, you're hinting at the cheapie. We'll get to him in a second. I saw in the chat, Eric said that Burns sucks. Like, what are we talking about? How does Burns suck? I don't know if that's in the context of some other conversation or he's being sarcastic, but this season, well, he had one walk, so he sucks. Got one walk, 58 strikeouts. The one issue I think with Burns, you kind of alluded to it. I mean, he is jumping in the American League as well, as you can't really pick on a pitcher. He's got to get a DH, but the DH is not going to be particularly great because it's Kansas City. But his issue is pitch count, right? They don't really let him go. Now he's not going to get pitch hit for, but still, like last time out, 78 pitches, 87, 93, 81, 86. He's got to be super efficient with his strikeouts in order to justify it, because he's also almost definitely not going 7. He can go 6 and strike out 12, and it doesn't matter. But he's got to thread that needle. And also, Cheese was writing about this in an article today, the premium article by Cheese is Good, Dave Potts. You guys should be reading the $1 Million Musings. And even Cardi's talked about it a couple of times too. And he kind of cited Cardi, and he was saying that Kansas City Ballpark has been playing more positive for hitting of late. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But yeah, and again, the weather, which again, I'll have to see what Rothus says. I'm not going to play a weatherman on TV or the interwebs or anywhere. So we'll yield to Roth on it. Although it looks like it did benefit, at least from earlier today to where it stands now, and stay tuned a couple hours, obviously. But yeah, Flaherty. I just want to go ahead and read this off, Grant, because I wrote this in the expert survey today. The current roster for Pittsburgh versus righties since 2020, their isolated power, right? 30th. We know like they're a terrible lineup. They're without Brian Hayes. They're without Colin Moran. So even like they're terrible and they're worse. 30th, dead last. And okay, maybe they'll grab some walks. Nope, they're 29th in walks. WRC plus, weighted runs created plus. They're 29th there, and they don't strike out a ton, but they're still 15th in strikeouts. I've not seen their lineup specifically today as far as how it caters to strikeouts. I anticipate the top two are probably.
It's a 24.1% projected K rate, and realistically, like that's without the pitcher batting. It's bad. It's very bad. So essentially, it's 26.8 since the beginning of 2019.
Flaherty's my favorite pitcher today. Like that's it.
Yeah. No, I'm right there. I'm right there with you. Again, there's a chance I just go 100% Flaherty, 100% Gilbert.
All right. Well, I mean, are you a Seattle Mariners fan?
Yep.
Kind of, sort of, somewhat. So,
yep.
All right. Talk to me about Gilbert, prize prospect. He's facing the Tigers. He looks fine his first time. I mean, like he looks the part, like a big, tall dude. He's got some stuff. Got the pedigree, dominated in the minors. This Detroit team's not that much better than a minor league team. I think he threw 70-ish pitches, so maybe he gets bumped like 85 or so. But also the asking price is what's appealing too. The Gilbert's pairing along with Flaherty gets you pretty much a good amount of the bats. Gilbert, I think 6K on FanDuel. I'm not sure if he's going to grab those 6 innings, get that quality start, but it definitely opens the bats up for you as well. Sell the people on Gilbert, because I think I'm already in. I'm definitely already in to some degree.
Well, Detroit is trash.
Sure.
They have the highest strikeout rate in the league, near the bottom in terms of walk, 4th to last in terms of ISO, which is the big concern with him because he, like at least in his first one, he gave up a lot of fly balls. May continue, may not continue, who knows? But Detroit's just trash. Like that lineup is horrible. That team is terrible. They're bad. They're really bad versus lefties, but they're still pretty darn bad versus righties. The one thing we have concern about is going to be home runs. Who on the team since the beginning of 2019, there's one batter that has an ISO over 160.
Should I play by? Should I cheat like you cheated, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, well, it's going to be Badu, but his sample size is super small.
Yeah, 82 pitches. Like everyone's trash. Everyone's terrible. No one's good in this entire lineup. They all strike out. None of them can really do much harm. The downside for Gilbert is based strictly on BABIP, which BABIP's not going to be as much of a concern considering the ball's only going to be put in play, 2 out of every 3 times. Like Gilbert grades out as probably close to 25 to 30% K rate guy. He's going up against a 30% K rate lineup. So that means that he's probably going to strike out 35% of the batters. Like that's just on average what he's probably going to end up doing. So I don't care. Like I really don't care. Fly balls are only a problem if they become a home run generally. Like that's what it is. Line drives will be doubles and singles. Ground balls, if hit hard enough, can easily become a double or single. fly balls, if they're not hit hard enough, they're not going anywhere. And that's Detroit is not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark much at all.
So you have a bunch of other guys. I think Means is too expensive, but he's certainly interesting for tournaments, I suppose. I think he's going to be good. He's been good this year. I know he had that no hitter, obviously. Tampa, there are some Ks in that lineup. Rogers, I like too. He's been solid, but it's just too close of a price to Flaherty. It's too close of a price to Scherzer, and even Burns if he goes, and even Kershaw if he goes. Well, Kershaw's going to go, but so like I'm just kind of working my way down. They're all they're the guys I don't really want to pick on, but I'm probably not going to roster. If you're running out 150, I understand why you kind of get a pinch here and a pinch there. The Mets lineup's bad, so I guess you can play Morton, but I don't love that. I just don't love Morton, really. But he's old, and he's just not what he used to be. I'm not buying in.
I mean, you look at his underlying statistics, really not bad. I mean, in the past, yes, he was an absolutely dominant pitcher, but we're not getting Morton at Charlie Morton price. He's 8.5K. That's not bad. This season, he's got a 4x FIP, slightly worse, and 25% K rate. Like, that's not a huge difference.
But he's also not going to go deep into the game. Like, he hasn't thrown 100 pitches all season long.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it? I mean, I don't know why I would roster him.
Going up against the Mets, like, that have been hitting terribly.
Yeah, the Mets have been bad.
Yeah, so why, like... I get you're like, oh, I'll use Burns, but I'm not going to use Morton. I get they're entirely different pitchers, but Morton's not that expensive. Like I'm probably not using a ton of Morton. I might not use any Morton. Again, I might only use Flaherty and Gilbert. But I mean, if you're going to pivot off to someone, Ohtani's probably the guy to go with.
Yeah, well, hold that thought for a second. I'm just pulling that Mets lineup up. I knew it was going to be bad, but it's like even more. Khalil Lee is playing today. Fargas is playing today. Peraza is playing today. Conforto's in the DL. Plate IQ for this season and this season only, it's all red with the exception of Jonathan VR, who's leading off, which is wild. From an ISO perspective, from a WOBA perspective, the ballpark's not great for pitching, but I guess Morton's interesting, if only because this lineup is dreadful. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't anticipate. I feel like there's even extra. I mean, Pilar obviously got, oh man, did you see Pilar's face? Oh, I don't know if you caught, I mean, not that Pilar's good, but wish him the best of luck. But this lineup is horrific, and even the ones that are good, Lindor has been awful this year. I imagine he'll turn around at some point. I guess Morton's in the conversation, but talk to me about Ohtani, who is just incredible, by the way, as far as his hitting, completely insane. The most fun player to watch in baseball. So you don't get hitting points tonight, obviously, but DK made him cheap enough where you can, he's the perfect tournament guy, a great K guy, but he also can get super wild. Sell me on Ohtani. I guess it's the price and the potential upside.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's not to like about him? He's got 36.4% K. What's the difference between him and Burns?
Well, the walks,
That's it.
Burns is like a 1% walk rate, or maybe even lower, and Ohtani's is like, what, 19? Which is an insane number.
Yeah, but I mean, still, so obviously, like,
it's a big
you look
difference.
At things. Yeah, it's definitely a big difference, but you look at things overall, he's got a 3.89 xFIP. xFIP takes the walks into account. He's an extreme ground ball pitcher. He has a great K rate. It's just the walks. He's going up against a team where, like, who's really going to walk that much in this line? Who on the team has over a 10% walk
Jose
rate?
Ramirez and Cesar Hernandez. He's going to walk at least one guy in the first inning. I would wager on that.
I mean, it probably isn't a great wager. I would guess that he's not going to walk someone in the first inning. He's got an 18.2% walk rate, meaning that he'd have to face over 5 batters on average to get one walk.
Yeah. Ramirez is the guy he'll walk. He'll get 2 outs and then he'll walk Ramirez.
Ramirez has a 10% walk rate on the season.
Yeah, but you're not going to throw to him because Framber Reyes has some pop as well too. But it's not a very deep lineup. That's kind of the point I'm referencing as well too.
Yeah, no, I get Jose Ramirez is a fantastic hitter, but expecting him to walk every single time Ohtani throws to him, not really the smartest move, especially if no one else is on base. He's just going to go at him.
It was a reckless wager, and the moment passed, and you could have pounced, and then that's it. You missed it.
I don't want to steal your money. Everyone in DFS already does that because you're bad. Razzed.
Oh, Grant, I'm right here.
I know. I said it to your face. Of course you're right there.
Yeah, my virtual face. So you're right, though. As far as a team collectively, 7.5% is walking this season. Reyes doesn't walk. Naylor doesn't walk. Ramirez doesn't walk. So, and I think he has got it's not an extreme as far as the umpire. The umpire data is out. And there is a couple extremes that are worth talking about, but Ohtani's not in it. He's one of those guys that I want to know if he's got extremes either way, because I think it actually matters for him. Is there much else to say as far as pitchers? Because there's some other guys I'm just going to avoid, but I'm not necessarily going to roster. An interesting one that
Eflin?
Yeah. Okay. So Eflin, and I think Kluber is kind of interesting against Texas.
Yeah. So those two are like interesting for a very specific reason. Eflin is terrible versus lefties. The lefties in this lineup, like Jazz is fantastic.
Jazz. Yeah.
Dickerson's all right. Leon, not great. So he's facing only 3 lefties. His numbers versus righties are absolutely just straight up elite. Like great numbers versus righties. Versus lefties, well below average pitcher. So the fact that he's only facing 3 lefties and one of them's not good, then it makes it a pretty decent matchup. Plus Jazz, like he's good. He's solid. He's got a lot of potential. Still strikes out at a 31% clip. Then Kluber on the other side is kind of the same thing. Kluber this season, because he just doesn't have a pitch type to really get out righties as well, or get out righties as well as lefties.
He's striking out lefties.
Yeah, he's striking out lefties at a massive clip, but he doesn't really have an out pitch. Like his changeup is fantastic. Like if you don't know anything about splits and reverse splits and extreme splits pitchers, essentially a slider will make you more extreme splits, and a changeup will get you more towards reverse splits. Like a changeup pitch is the out pitch going up against lefties. Cutter is kind of the same thing to an extent, and curveballs kind of the same thing to an extent. But predominantly, it's slider, changeup are the ones where slider is going to make you very normal splits, and changeup will make you a reverse split pitcher if it's your absolutely go-to out pitch. And the whiff rate on his changeup versus lefties is 62%.
Wow.
That's incredible. Like that's fantastic. And in the lineup, we have Calhoun, we have Lau, and we have Garcia. Like it's not a hugely lefty dominant lineup, but we still got Trevino and Culberson at the bottom that are just not good overall and can strike out anytime. So he's got at least 3 decent strikeout bats in that spot. So it gives him a little bit of upside. We look at the overall implied team total for the Rangers, and I'm going to double check on it again. But it's not that high. Like he's got 3.87 implied team total. That's pretty much the same as a lot of guys that you're pretty much the same as Ohtani, pretty much the same as a few guys that you can consider on this slate. And he's not going to come in at much ownership.
If you guys don't hear us talk about a pitcher you want us to talk about, feel free to fire away. Feel free to ask Devin or Fab.
People keep asking about Turnbull or Skewball. No, just no.
I mean, Seattle's kind of terrible. It's one of those weird things where we saw Mize.
Seattle's not that bad. You just like it's recency bias. They've had a few bad games.
They're still not very good, and the ballpark's pretty good for pitching. Now it looks like Mize is ahead of Skewball. Like they're both like prospects. Mize obviously got more highly touted, and I'm just kind of making the point that he shut him down. And if I watched a good bit of that game, and Seattle just takes bad at bats sometimes. I mean, they got no hit last night. So kind of versus like with Turnbull. Turnbull's throwing no hitters here in 2021.
Anyone can get no hitter. Like there's differences in no hitters. Obviously, there's extreme ground ball pitchers that get soft contact that can end up doing it, but predominantly it's a large amount of luck and a decent amount of control. So like if a pitcher gets 7-8 strikeouts and gets a no hitter with 1 walk, like that's a solid outing, and the no hitter is actually pretty solid.
Who's the worst pitcher to throw 2 no-hitters? They happened in the last 6 years.
Is it Edwin Jackson? I think he only threw 1.
He did throw 1, like 140 pitches. Congratulations.
140 pitches, like 8 walks. It was incredible.
The dude for the Marlins also did that many, many years ago, and I'm forgetting his name. Andrew. Whatever. Big, tall guy. Dipped a lot. Doesn't matter. AJ Burnett. There you go. Against the Padres. Do like a 10-walk no-hitter. The correct answer we're looking for is Mike Fiers.
Oh, yeah.
2 no-hitters for Mike Fiers. How does that happen?
I mean, he's an extreme fly ball pitcher pitching in a ballpark that is great for fly ball pitchers.
Home run to fly ball ratio worked in his favor a couple nights. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, when you're extreme fly ball pitcher in a very good pitcher's ballpark, again, fly balls don't really mean too much if they can't leave the ballpark. And he just happened to get lucky on home run to fly ball variance.
But again, I don't know how we're not talking about everybody. We got to talk about it in a second. We have to entertain the questions in the chat. And I was trying to say before, feel free to fire up some questions. Devin's compiling them. He'll be joining the show in about 5-10 minutes or so, give or take. And He'll be asking us questions on your behalf and ask us anything regarding the slate, stacks, yada, yada. We're happy to be here for the next 25 minutes or so. Keller is kind of sort of somewhat interesting just because he's like an interesting pivot off of Gilbert. Again, weather permitting, but that Milwaukee lineup is bad. I assume Yelich
not as bad.
Yelich is back, but is that really Yelich? Are we sure that's Yelich? Because he looks
it doesn't
terrible.
really fully matter if it is the actual Yelich. Like, the overall lineup isn't as bad. Wong's in there, Kane's in there. For a majority of the season, we had just an absolutely trash lineup. And Keller isn't a guy that strikes out anyone. He throws strikes. And while this lineup may not be great, the KC Ballpark has been better so far this season. Keller is not going to get you the upside by strikeouts. He's going to get you the upside by pitching later into the game and just getting through more batters and not allowing stuff. But this is not a horrible lineup. Like,
he's
it's
so
bad.
weird.
It's not horrible.
Keller dating back to last year, 16.9% K percent. That's terrible. A 0.72 as far as home run per nine. Does not give up homers. 8.2%. Oh, geez, I just lost sort of it. He just doesn't give up many fly balls and doesn't give up many homers. He's a hard guy to pick on. I was peeking at the old BBP, and I think CEO of Team Girth, Daniel Vogelbach, I want to say he's like 3 for 6 with 3 homers. Do the people care about that? I don't know. I don't. Some people think that's interesting. I don't know if we're getting there as far as Vogelbach, but sure, he's kind of sort of somewhat interesting despite the fact he's been terrible this season. Summarize the arms. Let's talk about some bats.
So arms. I'm going with 4 arms. I'm going with Flaherty. I'm going with Ohtani. I'm going with Kluber, and I'm going with Gilbert. If you want to play Kershaw, absolutely fine. I may end up with a share of him. Morton, absolutely fine. May end up with a share of him. I'm crossing off Scherzer. And then Burns is a solid overall tournament play if the weather is permitting. Like, that's entirely up to Roth to kind of decide there. It is looking a lot better. And so, but outside of that, Eflin is a solid play. I'm staying away from Scherzer because of that wind, and it just doesn't profile well for him.
Going to go around the horn in a second as far as guys we like at each position briefly, and then we're going to turn it over to the chat. Do want to mention Super Draft free roll for PGA, $1,000 Super Draft free roll. PGA Championship is this week, $50 free, up to 50%. Up to $500 deposit matching bonus, promo code Grinders, GRINDERS. We're going to go ahead and drop that link in chat for the people. I believe you have 5. You can get up to 5 free roll chances here on Super Draft. Devin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the people are allowed 5 chances in the $1,000 Super Draft free roll. Again, link in chat. And Grant, you're going to get them started, right? You're going to give the people some golf winners. Is that true?
I don't know. I believe our projections are going to give the people some golf winners. I don't know golf. I go off projections. I have been to more golf finals than everyone else on this podcast combined by one.
But congratulations. You won a what is it, 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 to get yourself to a final?
Yeah.
Well done. What do you want?
It was still a $100 400-person qualifier.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it was 1 in 4 chance to qualify. Never mind.
No, 1 in 4 chance to win it. I got second, top 50%. Boom.
I never tried to qualify for. I don't know golf. It's important to know what you know and know what you don't know. It's just as important.
I don't know golf, but I know DFS, and you could make it work. But yeah, top 3 golfers according to our RG projections. Answer at a 1.25 multiplier. Tringle 1.45 multiplier. Berger 1.15 multiplier. If I want to give you more analysis on that, I'd just be talking out my butt.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are premium members, we have a great premium team as far as golf, SDL cards, Noto and Tambo, amongst others. They crush it in the golf streets. And, I know scores and odds are always giving winners. They pick the outrights and all that kind of stuff. We don't have the scores and odds. I think you work for scores and odds as well too, Grant. I don't know if you were
I got a few picks out there.
Yeah, and you had you were scalding earlier this year. I'm not sure if you've cooled off a little bit. I
definitely had a downswing, which was it was almost entirely on one day where I had 7 picks. Normally I only do 2 or 3. I had 7 picks in the day. I went like 1 for 6. Yeah, but I'm still got a 70% winning percentage and up pretty good. 15 plus units.
Let's knock out catcher real quick. What excites you?
Nothing.
Yeah,
well, you got Contreras is the top overall play, and he's really not even a good play. It's going up against Scherzer. He's just the most likely guy to hit a bomb. He's 5.1K. He's overpriced. No one stands out as great. Like if your top option is probably Zunino going up against Means, guy with a ton of power, has potential for a 2 home run game. But he doesn't even stand out as a great play. Just round out your stack or go cheap.
Mike Zunino has 10 home runs in the season. How many total hits does he have?
15.
19.
That took a shot.
That's all he does is hit homers and strike out. For sure, he's an interesting tournament play. Absolutely. If you want to, if the kids call this leverage sometimes, if you're off of Gilbert, Haas, I believe, is playing like center field. He banged out a couple homers the other night. And granted, I don't know who Haas is, but I saw him at a couple homers. And there's Wilson Ramos, who's just 3.2K, which seems pretty cheap. Vasquez, well, I guess as far as the lineups today, I think it's pretty constricted. Obviously there's 24 teams playing baseball tonight, but Washington, Toronto, Boston, the Dodgers, and the Yankees, I feel like that's pretty concise as far as the most popular teams people are going to be on. Would you agree with that? Is there something I did not touch on?
No, I think that's about right.
Yeah. All right.
I'm still stacking all those teams.
You're embracing the chalk? Grant, that's you?
Yeah. I'm playing smaller field GPPs.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing too. I can't play in the ones that DK's offering. It's like 35% up top. It's like I want to, and the 121 I missed out. I didn't sign up. And these are my problems. No, people don't care about this in the chat. Give me some first baseman you like.
Josh Bell. Josh Bell is absolutely fantastic play.
Yeah.
Josh Bell. Tellez, 3.4K, a little bit cheap.
He's not
Muncy,
playing.
if you want to pay up there. Vlad, if you want to pay way up there. Void, if you want to pay up the top first basemen are predominantly on the chalky stacks, and they're all good plays. But that's pretty much it. Like if you want a tournament play, I don't know, Matt Olson going up against Greinke, Freddie Freeman going up against the lefty, Vogelbach going up against Trash Keller, who can't strike anyone out, and Vogelbach has some power. Reese Hoskins against a good hitting or a good pitching lefty, but Hoskins crushes lefties. That's pretty much it. Like you're probably throwing your first baseman in your stack if you're going chalky. If you're not, then you just go one-off power with Olsen or Vogelbach or Freeman.
I just want to say this one: the official Toronto Blue Jays Twitter account does not have Tellez in their lineup, and Fantasy Labs has Tellez playing center field, which is not happening. He's on Team Girth. He's not the CEO, but he's on Team Girth. He's definitely not playing center field tonight. So something's wrong, and just be aware of this. Maybe it's been corrected. Maybe Toronto's going to send out another tweet. Maybe one of their beat writers got it wrong. I'm not sure. But he's like 2-1 on FanDuel. So if he plays, I like him. And he's pretty cheap on DK as well. Nice ballpark, obviously. But just be cautious. I imagine in the next hour or so we'll get some clarity on this. Because according to Toronto, it's Semien, Bichette, Vladdy, Hernandez, Grichuk, Gurriel, Biggio, Davis. That's Jonathan Davis, former lead singer of Korn, McGuire, and Stripling. So something goofy is going on. It would make sense that Davis is in center field and Tellez is not. But I don't know what's going on. But just be aware, and if you're rostering Tellez, exercise some caution. Second base, what do you have for me?
Second base, cheap options are the top option. Kike is far and away the best option. 3.3K going up against Stripling. Used to play with Stripling, which is always a little bit of a plus, but Stripling's been really reverse split so far this season. Looking at his pitch type, it makes a lot of sense. He's just far too cheap at 3.3K. Or you can go down to Dylan Moore. Scooball been horrible versus righties pretty much all season long. He's 2.7K. He's banging in the heart of that order. Probably the two top options on the slate. Maybe Josh Harrison if you want to round out your Washington stack with the wind blowing out with the uptick in home runs. Outside of that, you can pay up for guys like Altuve, Semien, or Albies. But that's second base.
I'm not sure if he's at Starlin Castro or not, but he's 2-1 on FanDuel. 2-1. We don't have the official
more
lineup.
At DK.
Yeah, he's fine on DK. He's like 3-3 over there, which is, like you said, Kiki's a really, really solid price as well. But 2-1, $100 above the minimum. It's a revenge game for him, too. Of course, there's some wind blowing out. I think Castro is a pretty fine punt. We want to get to the questions in chat. They're compiling as we speak. Feel free to fire them off. Devin's all over it. He's going to join the show shortly. Give me the hot corner, third base.
Castro's cheap. Devers grades out fantastically. Ramirez grades out pretty well against Ohtani. Turner is in a really solid spot going up against Kelly, who's an extreme fly ball pitcher.
Shortstop?
Shortstop, you got some of the same guys, but Turner is the top overall raw points projected play by a decent amount. Again, Chicago, great hitting weather. Arrieta, terrible pitcher. Bogarts, Bichette, like all three of those guys are super high priced. So if you have the money, you pay up for them. If you can't pay up for them, it's a little bit of a different story. Like Adames is $3K. He's not a terrible little play there. Torres is 3.9K going up against Yang, who's not a major league caliber pitcher, and bullpen behind him, below average bullpen. So Torres is probably the play depending on price. Yeah, but you're either paying up or you're probably just rounding out your stack or playing Torres or Adames as cheap one-offs.
You kind of scoffed at BVP earlier. What about SBVP? Stolen bases versus pitcher. I found this kind of interesting. Trey Turner, we know he's got wheels. One of my favorite players, the roster. I talk about him all the time, especially on the road, especially in a good spot, in a good ballpark. At least we're anticipating good weather there against an inferior pitcher. You basically have those 5 ABs on layaway, and he can get there multiple routes, if not the stick, the wheels. He's been on base. Well, I don't know. He might have like fielder choice or something like that, but he's got 20 official at bats, 4 hits, 2 homers. You can't steal and hit a home run in the same at bat. You know how that works, Grant. It wouldn't make sense.
Well, you can if you just stop on first and say, "No, I'm good here."
Well, no, but no, who's going to do that? And I don't think that works because sometimes
some people double down on blackjacks. I know I have.
There's this great old clip. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Albert Bell, Joey Bell? Big dude, like monster, like in the late 90s, powerhouse for the Indians, for the White Sox.
No, that was before my time.
But like he got hit by a pitch and he's like, no. Like the umpires tell him to go first base. Like, no, I'm not. I want a hit. It was amazing. It's an amazing clip. I'll send it to you. He refuses to go to first base because he wants to get the game-winning RBI. It's awesome. John Boy does a thing on him. You know John Boy? Yes, I assume. Sure.
John Boyd?
No, that's an actor. Angelina Jolie's father, John Boy. We're getting off track. We got to bring the chat in a second. The point I was making is that in 4 hits, he's got 2 homers. So again, you can't steal. He's got 4 stolen bases, and he's got 2 walks. So 2 hits, 2 walks, maybe a fielder's choice here and there or something like that. He steals on Arrieta. That's all I'm saying. Give me the outfielders.
Outfielders, there's a bunch of them. Soto is the clear top option on the entire slate by a pretty wide margin. Schwarber, not far behind him. Again, it's just Arrieta is terrible. If you want to stack up the Brewers, like Yelich isn't a terrible throw-on. I know he hasn't been great so far this season, but he's a guy that you can definitely end up using. Dylan Moore, I already talked about him. He's cheap. Betts is in a good spot going up against Kelly. Haniger is one of my favorite stacks that are going to be lower owned is Seattle. Like the righties of Seattle. Skubal. Yeah, Skubal.
It's Skubal.
Yeah, he's a pretty extreme splits pitcher, like, which isn't a good thing as a lefty. And there's a decent amount of power between Lewis, Haniger, and Moore. So one of my favorite stacks on the entire slate, which I guess we'll get to right after this, is Seattle. Outside of that, JD. Do
you play Kelnick and Seager in your stacks? I assume so, despite the fact about the extremes.
Yeah, Detroit's bullpen isn't great, and Skubal's probably only going to make it 4 innings. Okay. Again, if some people are playing him, good on you. I'm not doing it. Outside of that, like some other spend ups, JD Martinez is going up against reverse splits. Stripling, not a good spot. Beatty, if he's in the lineup, in a decent spot. He's cheap. Don't mind him. Jordan Alvarez, like the chalk guys are the best plays, and anyone else is just fine. Like Upton's cheap. These guys are cheap, but the top
wind is blowing out in Oakland, by the way, and nobody's playing like any hitters in that game.
Wind's blowing out in Oakland?
Like 15 miles per hour.
Yeah, wind's always blowing out in Oakland. San Francisco and Oakland literally have it set up where the wind doesn't affect them. It's architecture. It's over your head.
First of all, there has not been an architectural thought in the Coliseum in Oakland in the last 70 years. The toilets have overflown 6 times. I don't know if you're aware.
No, there has literally, when it was created, and yes, they've actually redone some stuff. Yeah. They created it so that it doesn't have wind going in there. Like, you don't want to, it's already cold enough during the summer. Like most baseball stadiums are hot during the summer. Oakland and San Francisco, being that close to the bay, have made it so it's not hot. And they want to not have the wind blowing in, because some of the coldest you can be is actually at a San Francisco Giants game with the wind blowing in and everything. Like, it's just not in the humidity, everything. It's just the way they set things up.
I just wanted to reference the sewage that overflows in Oakland. Like, it seems like every single year, and like they're probably going to kick him out. Like, I don't feel like, hopefully, I mean, they have amazing fans, by the way. Like the Oakland fans that bring the drums, they have a great little section over there.
I mean, the Raiders had some of the best fans in the league.
Yeah,
they still got left Oakland.
Yeah, well, because Vegas is a little bit more glamorous.
Well, I think Oakland could be going to Vegas.
They might. I don't know. Or Montreal. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose. Remember the Expos, or that's more of like Albert Bell's time.
No, I remember Vlad playing for him. I was watching during the Expos before they got relocated.
Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Delano DeShields, Marquise Grissom, Cliff Floyd. I can keep going. Moises Alou. This is Daily Fantasy Sports. We care about tonight and tonight only. Why are we talking about the Expos, Grant? Give us some of your favorite stacks.
I'm going with the chalk and then Seattle. Seattle's my favorite stack on the board. Turnbull's terrible.
Yeah, I'm just afraid. I mean, I'm afraid. I'm just like you. I'm gonna be too chalky tonight. But I'm also not playing in the contest out of 60,000 entries. I'm playing in the single entry or the 3 entry and then that kind of thing. And the slam over there on FanDuel where it's limited like 1,500 or so, where you don't necessarily have to hit the nuts. That's enough of our nonsense. Let's bring in Devin. He's going to speak on behalf of the chat. What's going on, Devin?
I don't know if I can speak on behalf of the chat, but I'll speak on behalf of myself. SBVP, Dean. Boo.
Stolen bases first pitcher. That BBP acceptable. Some people
I never gave
stuck in your ways.
I never gave the green light for BVP either, but SBVP, it's already lower than that. So
stolen bases. Try and keep up.
I called kombucha booch the other day, and you were like, "You don't have time for kombucha."
You don't have time for 2 syllables. You can't take it. Yeah. You were making a reference you make with your wife.
It's literally 3 syllables, Dean.
Yeah, he was saying 1. Do the Grant.
Dean, it's 3 syllables. It's 3 whole syllables, Dean.
But you said 1, so you dropped 2. Grant, it's math. Do I need to?
Yeah, that's 33%. You saved 66%. That's a lot of savings.
Efficiency, Dean.
But the time we're wasting right now is many more than those 2 syllables.
Yeah, whose fault is that? Yours?
Oh, by the way, also, you guys were talking about Yelich not seeming like himself. I actually went to a Nashville Sounds game the other day, and he was there batting.
Yep, I remember seeing that.
Hey, look.
Keston Hira. Yeah, like you said, I don't know who that didn't quite look like him out there batting, but some people go through streaks, so it is what it is.
We're going streaking.
It was a lot of fun. It's very good to be back out. Let's get to some questions. You guys just want to bounce it back and forth?
Yep.
Sure.
Or you can take FanDuel. You can take cash. I'll take GPPs.
Let's do that. All right, Grant. Stan wants to know DK tournaments. We may have touched on this one. This was the beginning of the show. Thoughts on Flaherty? We may have touched on that enough.
Flaherty is my favorite pitcher on the slate.
All right, Dean. This one was coming from Eric. Adalis Garcia or Ramon Laureano?
I mean, they're both tournament flyers. I would say it matters what the rest of your lineup is doing, but I would take. Yeah, I mean, Greinke, I don't really want to pick on, but I don't want to roster. I'm going to take all that wind and all that sewage in Oakland and we'll go with Ramon.
There's a joke somewhere here about the Cuban Missile Crisis, but we're just going to leave that laying there. What about Matt Chapman, Dean, while we're on it?
Why does everybody want I mean, Greinke's not a fun player to roster, but I don't think I'm playing it. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's in Oakland.
I'm not getting to him. Like, he's certainly got power, but I don't think I'm getting there. I'm going to have a hard time getting there in my 5 lineups.
All right, Grant, John wants to know, can you touch on Peterson?
Not playing him. He's fine. He's a decent strikeout pitcher so far this year, but Atlanta's a very tough lineup, and he's probably not as good of a strikeout pitcher as his numbers show, so he's going to struggle, especially going up against 8 or 7 righties and then Freeman. So it's just a terrible spot for him. No real interest in him at all.
All right, moving on. Don't forget to hit that like button if we get your question. Dean, GR Sauce wants to know, if you're rostering bats that you want, does that mean you're not stacking in your 3-entry max?
I mean, I have my own sort of philosophy on that. And again, a 3-entry max, you don't necessarily have to stack 5 guys. And I'm sure Grant can touch on it as well, too. I'm for sure rostering mini stacks. I'm not doing 1-1-1-1-1, but it's probably 3-3-2 or something like that. If it happens to work out organically where I get 5, so be it. But I don't force myself to play 5. Grant, you have a thought on that?
No.
You have no thought on stacking?
I always stack.
Yeah.
Okay, but what kind?
Literally whatever fits. You figure out what fits. One of the best stacks on the slate for a 4-man is Bell, Schwarber, Soto, and Turner. You may not always be able to find a reciprocal 4-man stack, so throwing in Gomes as their 5th is a great idea to do. 4-3, 4-4, 5-3. All are viable stacks depending on what teams you're stacking. You just don't want to have a trash hitter with no chance at anything in there.
Now, here's a question.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when we're speaking specifically like a 5-man stack, is it traditionally considered that the pitcher could be one of those 5 men? Because I feel like that differentiates the stack a good bit, right? If you're really trying to include that as part of the stack.
Pitcher?
No. Are you talking like Ohtani?
Well, I'm saying specifically the sites allow you to only play 5 max from a team, right?
Oh no, the pitcher doesn't count.
It does not count.
But if you're playing on FanDuel, you can't have a pitcher and a 4-4, a pitcher on the same team as those 4. If that makes sense.
Interesting.
3 different teams.
Some weird holes in the rules there. Dean, what are your thoughts on Rogers? Did we talk about him?
I like him. I think he's a little bit too expensive, but you consider the alternatives are just a little bit more money, and I feel a little better about. And Rogers has been good. I'm not actively looking to pick on him. He's probably not a guy that can go 7 strong, but he's been phenomenal this year. But I'm definitely not rostering him, and just not going to pick on him. And hopefully he's just fine, and nobody from Philly goes nuts, and Rogers is okay. That's it.
All right, Grant. Michael wants to know for Gilbert. Is it Gilbert or Gilbert?
I think it's Gilbert, the comic.
Well, let's move on to the question. For DK, if his price on DK is so enticing that his ownership will probably be out of control, this is actually a good question just in terms of cheap pitchers. What is too much ownership for tournaments for you?
I don't think we haven't projected for 25% ownership, which may be a little low, but it's still something I'm willing to eat.
Yeah, that's not too much. I'd say probably if it's in the 40s, I'm going to be like, Dean,
2 things, Devin. I just want to mention this before. There are a couple extreme umpires, extreme hitters umpire with the aforementioned Logan Gilbert. We're going to go Gilbert. I believe his name is Logan Gilbert. Extreme hitters umpire there. So, whatever. I'm not saying you can't play him, but just note that. Extreme pitchers umpire for Rogers at Eflin. So maybe we get a pitcher's duel in that game. We probably do. And maybe there are interesting pivots in tournaments. I don't think they're kind of sort of in my pool, but not really. But if I love the lineup, that's all I can get to as far as salary, I'm willing to play him, Rogers and Eflin. But theoretically, I want to grab a guy like Flaherty, more ideally. And I also wanted to mention Soto. We talked about Soto. He's not hitting fly balls this year, Grant. His fly ball percentage this season, 17.2%. No matter what the wind is, it could be 50 miles per hour blown out, right? If you're not hitting in the air, it's not going out. But,
yeah, you remember that year where Yelich won the MVP? I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I know.
Pretty sure he was a ground ball
pitcher
or hitter. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, he changed his swing too. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Literally that year, he was a ground ball hitter, I want to say.
His home run to fly ball ratio was like 35%, which is not repeatable. Maybe that's why we're seeing him stink today.
I mean, it can be repeatable.
Or the back. Devin?
I'm still here, just waiting for you guys to finish up. Dean, thoughts on Montas? Did we talk about him?
No. I mean, it's just no. I mean, I'm not playing him in this slate. No thanks. He's probably not going to get shelled, but I'm not playing him.
What about Savali, Grant?
No.
Dean, Jacob wants to know, what about John Andy no-hitter means?
Yeah, he's another one of those guys. There's just a lot of good pitchers, and you can't play everybody. I can't play everybody. I'm only playing 5 lineups. I did want to say about Savali, Trout's out of that lineup, and we don't know if Ohtani's going to be in it either.
That was
that Angel lineup. That Angels lineup gets really, really bad with the absence of Trout and possibly Ohtani. It's Rendon, Walsh, and the bunch of just dudes that most of them are terrible. But again, Savali's not a guy that's gonna rack up 10 Ks. He can be efficient, I suppose, but he's not gonna break the slate. You were asking about somebody else. Who are you asking about?
John Andy Means.
Yeah, he's in the bucket. Means is in the same bucket as Rogers and the same bucket as Eflin. Basically, they're all sort of fine. They're on the fringes. If I'm running 150, they're in the pool. But we're talking less than 5% for me. I feel really, really good about Flaherty, which is uncomfortable because he's only got a K rate of 26%. But this Pittsburgh team, they don't walk. They don't hit the ball. If they do hit the ball, they don't hit it hard. They don't hit it in the air. They don't hit homers. And Flaherty's a guy that can go 8 innings if he's efficient. He had one bad start to start the season. That's it. Otherwise, he's been phenomenal, or at least really good.
Someone else I remember had a bad start and got labeled as a dusty pitcher. One Luis Castillo.
Yeah, well, oh man, he was a disaster in Coors, and I played him that night. But he did bounce back on a slate that didn't matter.
Bounce back on a slate that did not matter.
Yeah, good for him. He had like 11 strikeouts or something like that. But good to see.
Matt,
I like him.
Matt was giving us some grief, Grant, for your Tringali pronunciation. Got to put a little energy in there. Tringali.
Tringali.
I think the cool kids call it Train Golly. Frederick,
Train Golly guy.
We'll end on this one from Frederick. How concerned are you about Boston-Toronto stacks with wind blowing in?
Don't care.
Super succinct. That's the way we like it. Dean, you want to take us home?
Yeah, that enunciation, by the way, reminded me from that scene from
Tringali.
Bastards. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And, Brad Pitt's pretending to be Italian.
Margariti.
There it is. Well, way to finish strong, Grant. Devin, who's coming up next in Crunch Time?
We got Justin, Roth, and Tuttle, I believe. And don't forget about our super...
Justin. Who is this Justin you
STL Cards 84, as he's known in the DFS streets.
I know that guy. Do hit the like button. If you guys are premium members, feel free to stick around. Watch us in the premium streaks, taking you guys out to lock. Kevin Ross going to give you the most up-to-date update weather-wise, which does seem important tonight. Grant, say goodbye. I'm going on vacation.
Bye.
I'll see you all in a week.
Don't forget about our...
You know what else you'll see in a few days.
Oh, yeah. God willing.
Don't forget about our Super Draft PGA, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead and click the link on that as well. Hit the like button. And if you guys are premium members, again, click on over to Crunch Time. They're taking over. Devin's firing in about 7 or 8 minutes. Good luck tonight in your baseball contest. That was Grant. That was Devin. This was baseball. I was Dean. I'm out of here. Over.
Take care.